Hello, it's 10 a.m. on Monday, the 9th of March. You're tuned in to our mid-morning newscast on ARIRANG TV. Thanks ever so much for joining us. I'm Mark Broom. Let's take a look at the headlines. Korea and Qatar agreed to boost cooperation in the nuclear reactor and healthcare sectors while strengthening ties in construction, with one eye on the Arab nations hosting of the 2022 World Cup. President Park is due back in Seoul this morning. 8 cabinet hopefuls will have their nomination hearings this week at Korea's National Assembly. The questioning is likely to be tough, given that a number of them face allegations of tax irregularities and/or real estate speculation. Plus, 2 men from Russia's North Caucasus region are charged with the murder of the Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov. 3 other suspects appear before a court in Moscow. Our top story this morning, President Park Geun-hye is due back in Korea within the hour after a successful 4-nation trip to the Middle East. On her final stop in Qatar on Sunday, the Korean leader held talks with the Arab nation's emir to discuss ways for Korea to take part in his country's multi-billion-dollar preparations for the 2022 World Cup finals. The 2 sides also agreed to expand cooperation in a wide range of other areas. Our Chae-sun filed this report from Doha.
Qatar, the host of the World Cup in 2022, plans to spend $100 billion to build facilities, railway and roads ahead of the international sporting event. Korea has participated in major state infrastructure projects in Qatar for years, and now Korean companies are hoping to win orders for some $30 billion worth of World Cup projects to construct long-distance railways, roads, sewage treatment facilities, and World Cup stadiums. Meeting with the Qatari Emir on Sunday, President Park Geun-hye said there are so many potential areas of cooperation and that she's encouraged by Doha's great interest.
We believe Korean companies have an advantage in entering the Qatari market because their know-how and technology and infrastructure projects in the Middle East are highly noted.
The Qatari Emir said his country is ready to further develop and solidify the bilateral cooperative relationship. Seoul and Doha are also seeking to increase their investments in each other's economy. The leading Qatar Investment Authority Fund is reported to be interested in several Korean projects and is negotiating a $2 billion investment venture with the Korea Investment Corporation to enter a third country together. In the service sector, the 2 leaders have agreed to systemize the training and hiring of Korean workers in Qatar's airline, education and healthcare industries as the word is spread about Koreans' work ethic and credibility. Seoul and Doha have also agreed to strengthen cooperation in the fields of nuclear energy and healthcare. From nuclear energy, agriculture to cultural contents development, President Park has laid the groundwork to expand cooperation with the Middle East during her regional tour. She returns to Seoul on Monday. Chae-sun, ARIRANG News, Doha.
And President Park is going to have to overcome her jet lag pretty quick as she has a number of pressing state issues at hand. Officials say it's possible the president will visit US Ambassador to South Korea Mark Lippert, either in hospital or at his Seoul residence, to offer him some support as he recovers from the injuries he suffered during last week's appalling knife attack. She could also phone US President Barack Obama to talk about Seoul's response to the attack and to reassure the US that South Korea is fully committed to their decades-long alliance. Also, although nothing has been confirmed yet, it's likely that President Park will invite the leaders of Korea's rival parties to the presidential office this month to ask for cooperation in running state affairs. And it's going to be a busy week at South Korea's National Assembly, with a number of confirmation hearings scheduled to begin today following President Park's cabinet reshuffle last month. 8 nominees for cabinet positions will be in the hot seat. The sessions are expected to get heated as most nominees are facing allegations of tax evasion and/or real estate speculation. Now, Monday's hearings will be for the nominees to head the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport and also the Ministry of Oceans and Fisheries. The hearing for the nominee to lead the Financial Services Commission begins on Tuesday. A summit between the leaders of China and North Korea could be on the cards soon after Beijing's top diplomat said President Xi Jinping and Kim Jong-un could meet at a time when it is, quote, convenient. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said the two countries have a strong foundation and that should not be affected by what he called short-lived temporary events. Kim is expected to travel to Russia this May for an event marking the 70th anniversary of the Soviet Union's victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The North Korean leader has not made the short trip to China since taking power in 2011. A US think tank is urging Washington to refocus its attention on North Korea's nuclear ambitions, saying efforts to solve Iran's nuclear matters have been distracting the United States of late. Nautilus says the US should strengthen its monitoring of Pyongyang's nuclear weapons programs and use its hefty international clout to stop the North upgrading its nuclear capabilities. Now, this report also assessed that North Korea's nuclear stockpile consists of between 7 to 16 warheads. According to diplomatic sources in Washington, the US might push for direct talks with North Korea next month. However, the sources note that the Iranian nuclear issue is more of a priority for now, at least. Korea's central bank is coming under enormous pressure to slash its key interest rate to head off the possibility of Korea falling into a deflationary period. Other countries have been quick to act, so this week's rate-setting meeting is garnering an extra amount of attention. Our Son Jung-in reports.
Alarm bells are ringing for Korea's top economic policymakers after recent data showed the country's inflation rate grew slower than Japan's last year for the first time in over 4 decades and actually recorded negative growth last month. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan has expressed worries that the Korean economy could be headed down a deflationary path similar to Japan's 20 years ago.
We are deeply worried that the economy is slipping into deflation amid prolonged low consumer price rises. Excluding an increase in cigarette prices, Korea's consumer price growth has moved into negative territory.
Some are demanding the central bank roll up its sleeves to address the worsening situation. Unlike Japan and the Eurozone that are slashing interest rates and easing their monetary policies, Korea has kept its rate steady at 2% for the past 4 months. Amid growing pressure to lower its interest rate, the Bank of Korea is paying close attention to the growing value of the Korean won against the yen and the euro.
Korean exports to Japan and the EU plunged in January. We are watching the appreciation of the won against their currencies.
The Bank of Korea's next rate decision meeting takes place on Thursday. 18 countries have cut rates in the first quarter of 2015. Experts say Korea needs to do the same to help the country's exporters retain some price competitiveness in global markets. Son Jung-in, ARIRANG News.
There are growing calls for an increase to the minimum wage in Korea, but latest data shows Korea's lowest legal wage is neither that high or that low compared to other OECD nations. However, labor unions claim the country's rank doesn't properly reflect Korea's household income and living expenses. According to data released by the Economic and Social Development Commission and Korea Employers Federation on Monday, the annual minimum wage stood at just over $12,000 in 2013, and that has Korea ranked 14th out of the 25 OECD member countries. Australia was ranked first with an annual minimum wage of nearly $31,000, followed by France, Britain and Japan. Now, workers and labor unions in Korea say the minimum wage is not something that can be compared by only looking at those numbers. Finance Minister Choi Kyung-hwan said just last week that the Korean government increased the minimum wage by 7% last year and that he expects an even larger hike this year. 1 week has passed since Samsung Electronics unveiled its Galaxy S6 and Galaxy S6 Edge smartphones to an enthusiastic public at the Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. Now that excitement has calmed down a bit, how were the devices received, and will they be enough to cement Samsung's position as one of the premier players at the top end of the market? Song Ji-sun reports.
Samsung's distinctive blue and white flags welcomed more than 90,000 visitors to the Korean company's booth at this year's Mobile World Congress in Barcelona. And this year, the spotlight was on Samsung's latest Galaxy S6 smartphone models. With its slimmer design and wireless charging system, the unique look and feel of the phone was what captivated crowds the most.
I noticed that it felt different. It's not like the previous Galaxy S smartphones because Samsung has done a great job with the design of the phone by making the front and the back sides of glass and putting this great metal frame, this very sturdy frame around the device. It's durable, yet it looks amazing.
While the Galaxy S6 was grabbing the most attention, a market follower wanted Samsung spectators to drop by its booth too. Just across from Samsung sits Huawei, the world's fourth largest handset maker. As the event's official sponsor, Huawei had the most floor space, and the Chinese company did not waste an inch of it, displaying everything from handsets to Internet of Things devices such as CarFi, setting up a Wi-Fi environment in a moving car.
And we are very happy to see the friends from everywhere visit our booth, have a discussion. Huawei benefited from that, and also Huawei want to share with all the friends what we have in our R&D and our understanding for the future's roadmap.
Huawei also unveiled its first smartwatch, and while its features are not as advanced as those offered by its Korean rivals, the company is expected to gain ground quickly, as 13% of its annual revenue is pumped back into R&D. That's double the 6% Samsung has set aside for R&D over the past 2 years. Market watchers say Korean manufacturers like Samsung and LG are going to have to up their game if they want to stay at the peak of the global market. 송지선, ARIRANG News, Barcelona.
Animated characters are loved by people all over the world, and Korea's character market has been taking huge strides forward in recent years. For this week's Industry Insight, we're going to take a look at where Korea stands right now and what it can do to go to the next level. Our Kim In-ji reports.
This 90-second cartoon featuring two larvae and their quirky adventures inside a drain is entertaining enough to attract viewers both young and old, even without dialogue. Created by Tuba Entertainment in 2011, Larva is now broadcast in over 100 countries and is being made into more than 1,000 products.
From the early stages of development, we focused on multinationalization. Body language is somewhat universal, so we could easily create a sensation across different markets.
But it's just one of few success stories. Korea has a relatively short history in the character business and lacks infrastructure and global networks. On top of this, there's still a deep-rooted perception that cartoon characters are just for kids.
Disney's Frozen is an example of an animation that can be enjoyed by the whole family. Korean characters need to target people of all ages, as a larger consumer base will boost the market.
So where does Korea's industry stand?
The local character market has grown over 60% in the last 5 years, and it's expected to top $8 billion this year. But despite the exponential growth, it makes up less than 5% of the global market.
Analysts say the government needs to open communication channels for local companies to connect with distributors and licensors from around the world. Case in point, the Culture Ministry plans to invest $350 million into the character and animation industries over the next 5 years.
From the fostering of artists to facilitating production and exports, we plan to provide companies with comprehensive assistance.
Roy Visual, creator of hit animated TV show Robocar Polly, says the drive is sure to boost Korea's potential.
Korea has the manpower, so with systematic support for the process of creating a character or animation, local companies will be able to create stronger and better content.
And with the right reinforcements and time, experts say Korea will be able to produce characters as iconic as Mickey Mouse. Kim In-ji, ARIRANG News.
Now, Sunday marks exactly 1 year since Malaysia Airlines Flight 370 vanished on its way to Beijing, together with the 239 people it was carrying. And the authorities are still no closer to finding out what exactly happened. We're going to take a closer look at this and other global stories we're following this morning with Eunice Kim at the News Centre. So, Eunice, it's a terrible way to mark an anniversary, and an interim report released on Sunday didn't offer any real clues either.
Yeah, that's right, Mark. We really saw no glimmer of hope on Sunday other than renewed commitments from the prime ministers of Malaysia and Australia to continue searching the ocean floor. This as relatives of the missing say they are not ready to move on.
There are plenty of people who've said, come on, Sarah, just, he's not coming back. Give in to the truth and just move on with your life. But I'm not ready to do that because there isn't any proof. And I can't really move on in all ways until there is.
The 584-page interim report released by independent investigators noted there was no irregular behavioral signs in the plane's captain or captain crew. It also said the battery of a flight recorder had expired more than a year before the flight. But other than that, it shed little light into the cause or possible whereabouts into what's being dubbed as one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. Family members in China called the report meaningless, saying it offered no new evidence to clear doubts into Malaysia's pronouncement in January that the event was an accident. Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott said the search effort has scoured about 40% of the 60,000 square kilometer patch of sea floor where the plane is believed to be. He echoed sentiments expressed by his Malaysian counterpart that he is reasonably optimistic that the plane one day will be found.
Well, let's hope it is found one day. And like you say, truly one of the greatest aviation mysteries the world has ever seen. Now, let's turn over to Russia now. A court in Moscow has detained 5 men for their alleged involvement in the shooting death of outspoken Kremlin critic Boris Nemtsov.
That's right, Mark, and all 5 are said to be of Chechen origin. 2 of the 5 men now formally charged with plotting and executing the opposition leader's murder 10 days ago. A court in Moscow issued the charges against Anzor Gubashev and Zaur Dadayev, who were brought into court under heavy security. The latter of the 2 men said to have admitted to being involved in the shooting without saying outright he was responsible for the death. 3 other suspects remain in custody, while a 6th suspect, according to local reports, committed suicide when he detonated a grenade in a standoff with police in the Chechen capital of Grozny.
And Eunice, this is, of course, a significant development in this probe, but the arrests have done little to quell voices of opposition in the opposition.
Yeah, that's right. Some of those in the opposition, while saying that they also fear for their lives, have gone on to say that President Vladimir Putin was a de facto accomplice in the murder of Boris Nemtsov. Certainly having the political instability addressed will help jitters in the market, according to some followers. President Vladimir Putin notably announced over the weekend that he and his fellow officials will take a 10% pay cut effective next month amid the stagnating Russian economy. But we should add here, Mark, that he had tripled his salary just last year.
I'm sure he has much more money tucked away somewhere else as well, apart from his salary. Well, thank you very much, Eunice, and we'll see you back at noon.
Sure thing.
And a good Monday morning to you all as we kick things off with the 2015 HSBC Women's Champions, as a 4th Korean took home a trophy in 5 weeks as Park Eun-bi finished first place after 4 rounds of play. Now, after taking the lead in the first round of the event, she never lost her lead throughout the entire 4 days of the tournament as she stormed through the final round with a bogey-free 2 under par performance to finish off at 15 under par overall for her 13th career title. And what a tournament it was for the top-ranked Lydia Ko, finishing off in second place, 2 strokes behind the winner, and the third-ranked Stacey Lewis finishing in third place at 11 under par overall. And speaking of trophies, 6 teams in the KBL hoping to claim the top trophy as the 2014-2015 KBL playoffs tipped off on Sunday with the best-of-5 series, first-round series between the Changwon LG Sakers and the Goyang Orions. Now, both teams trying to get the upper hand with a Game 1 victory, and it's quite a tight game in the first half, with LG taking a slim 38-34 lead going to halftime. But the second half, a different story as LG's Devon Jefferson goes down on the Orions defense, putting up 24 points and 17 boards, as the LG Sakers cruise through in the second half to take Game 1, 82-62. Well, it was the opening weekend in the K-League Classic with some exciting finishes in the league, including some matches on Sunday where the Cheonnam Dragons and Jeju United drew 1-1 and the Ulsan Hyundai Tigers defeated FC Seoul 2-0. But the big match, 2 possible champions facing off between the Suwon Samsung Blue Wings and the Pohang Steelers. Now, with the match taking place at a packed Suwon World Cup stadium, both sides play aggressively from the start, but the big difference maker in this match, Suwon defender Oh Bum-seok getting sent off with a red in the 45th minute of the match, as Suwon plays with a man less in the second half. And while Suwon did their best to match Pohang despite being a man down, Son Jun-ho scores the only goal of the match in the 72nd minute, as Pohang holds on for the 1-0 victory. Now, when Yoon Sung-min returned to the Kia Tigers this past Friday after failing to make the Baltimore Orioles spring training roster, he proved that success in the KBO doesn't necessarily translate to a successful career in the majors. But for Kang Jung-ho, well, so far, so good. That his first week of exhibition games with the Pittsburgh Pirates. He's played 3 games so far and is currently hitting .333 with 1 home run, which came in his first game against the Toronto Blue Jays. And while he did go 0 for 2 on Saturday, Pirates manager Clint Hurdle has been very impressed with Kang and hopes to see more of him in the remaining spring games. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day and see you guys again for your sports needs.
Well, we had mid-April-like temperatures yesterday, and today we'll have late February-like weather, and it will actually get chillier as the day goes on due to the strong winds. And please brace yourself for the freezing cold morning tomorrow with a low plummeting to -7 here in Seoul. The whole nation is having a cloudy morning, but things will get brightened up as the day goes on. And on that note, let's take a closer look at the readings for today. The daytime high here in Seoul will climb to 6, and that's about 9 degrees lower than yesterday. But Daegu and Busan will still enjoy spring-like weather, topping out at 14, and Gwangju will rise to 9 this afternoon. And as for the other regions, Jeju Island and Daejeon should see a high of 9 and 7, and Dokdo peaks at 10. Thankfully, though, it will be a brief cold snap that we'll have tomorrow. The readings will jump up to the mild side on Wednesday, but it seems like readings will remain below the seasonal averages throughout the week. Well, that's all for Korea, and here's international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now. Plenty more stories are online and also on our smartphone application, which is worth a download. We'll be back again at noon Korea time with our next newscast. Until then, goodbye.